The one you bother me no informal. Everybody better rock to the new normal. What? Wear your mask, sanitize your hand. Everybody better rock to the new normal. The one you bother me no informal. Everybody better rock to the new normal. What? Wear your mask, sanitize your hand.
Have you ever felt as though God doesn't want to hear from you? Have you ever felt as though you are so bad, so filthy, so messed up, so unworthy that He won't listen to your cry for help? I certainly have. And it usually follows an action that I know I should not have done, or a decision that I know doesn't honor Him but myself. As I stand here and reflect, I realize how many times I've disappointed God, how many times I've cheated on Him. I've not always been faithful, but He's always kept His end of the bargain. Today, on day 25 of our 100 Days of Prayer series, we zoom in on God's faithfulness. Won't you join me for the next few minutes as we reflect on God's Word and leverage the power of prayer? The chorus of one of my all-time favorite songs, written by Taranda Green and made popular by the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir, says, "He's been faithful, faithful to me. Looking back, His love and mercy I see. Though in my heart I have questioned and failed to believe, my God, He's been faithful, faithful to me." In Lamentations 3:22-23, Jeremiah was inspired to pen these words. He says, "The Lord's loving kindness indeed never ceases, for His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is His faithfulness." As I contemplate the messages in this text and song, I can't help but wonder, am I ripping off God? Am I taking His endless love for granted? Taking the benefits and walking away from His laws of love? I am guilty. Yet still, I'm so favored. Yet still, I'm elevated. Yet still, I am blessed. Truly, God is a merciful being. Though I fail in my spiritual weakness, He remains my anchor, not willing that I should perish in the storm of life, but I
station. I see that we are wearing our face masks, and that is also one of the fundamentals. But let me ask you though, how do you remove your face mask? Can I get someone to demonstrate that for us? Anyone? Just show us how you remove your face mask. We are familiar with wearing it. Oh, we have a demonstrator? Sure. You could stay right where you are. It is fine. All right. Very good. So you use your fingers, but before you even use or come in contact with the face mask, what is it that we need to do first and foremost? Sanitize. So it goes back to having a sanitization station. We should have sanitization stations even in our home. Good? Because yes, we have it in the workspace. But remember that we have to protect ourselves from COVID in our comfort zone. I don't know about you, but I don't wear masks at home. So I definitely have to have my sanitization station there. Physical distancing. What about that? We are sociable beings. We come in contact. We like to touch. We like to hug. But COVID has really put some major distance between us. And it has affected quite a lot of relationships. Yes. However, when we talk about physical distance, this is another guideline that in the workspace as well as for our visitors, we need to ensure that this is also maintained. The protocols are relaxing a bit. We are looking at 3 feet apart. No. What was it before? It was 6. So definitely we see that we are on the right path. We are getting somewhere in managing ourselves where COVID-19 is concerned. And that's a good thing. But we need all hands on deck to get us where we want to be. This is our new normal, the wearing of masks, sanitizing, keeping our distance from each other. It is their new means of shaking hands. It's no longer hands. It is what? The elbow, knocking off the fist, even touching of the feet. Yes? There is even a new way to hug. Anyone know what is the new way to hug? Back to back. Yes. So these are new things, new steps, new strategies that we have to put in place. But we have to keep the message alive. We need to keep the message clear and consistent and in the faces of each other, right? So we have to get the message out, not only to the wider communities, but to definitely ourselves. It's important that we realize that technology enablement is very much pushed on us even more. There was a time when persons would back away from using the devices for monetary transactions to interact with others. But COVID has really reduced cash transactions. It has really reduced the use of paper, right? And so we have to keep up with the times, with the trends, in order to stay resilient, especially in the tourism market. It is important that we maintain real-time monitoring and reporting. This is where the temperature checking comes into play. Before COVID, when was your temperature taken? Before COVID, when was your temperature taken? When you visit the doctor. But since COVID has hit our shores, there is a temperature checker and the temperature monitoring device is in your face, it goes to your hand. Where else? Anywhere else? Wherever the pulse is, yes? Right. This is another normal for us, right? And so we have to realize that this is how we have to operate. And so even though you will have persons coming back or visiting us who would not want any such invasion, we have to realize now that this is what it is. And we have to approach it as gentle as possible for them to understand that this is how we are operating within our space, so as not to let anyone feel as if we are throwing the rule book at them. However, we still have to maintain these protocols. Now, rapid and clear response and definitely training. The protocols, the clear protocols where necessary. This is important for workers, visitors, and the wider community members. When we say wider community, we're talking about who you left at home. We're talking about your relatives who might be visiting you. Yes? And so we have to share this information. We have to ensure that all persons are on the same page. As we said earlier, the protocols are changing, and it is because we are doing some things and we are getting them right. However, there are still some little areas that we have to come together as a people to see how we can move ourselves forward in the right direction. And this is where training comes in. This is where reminding ourselves of these protocols come in. This session, it is not a matter of training and putting forward new information. It is a matter of reinforcing what is already known and sharing what we are doing right with all of us. So, we have to ensure that the training for the entire tourism industry has been done. However, we have to see how we can bring all of us back into focus on what is necessary. For all of our tourism entities, we have to see how best our SPP remains active. Does anyone know what SPP stands for? Let me see who is the bright sparks from primary school. Yes? Safety. I got safety. That's for the S. Point person. Yes. The safety point person. Now, regardless of you operating within a hotel, a guest house, an attraction, a craft market, transportation, you name it, whatever tourism entity or whatever tourism offerings that you have, our safety point person or persons still need to remain active. This is the person who is the point of contact once there is any COVID-19 issue. Be it reinforcing the information on location, if there is any employee or visitor that displays any COVID-19 symptoms, reporting of such, this needs to be done through the safety point person. At all of our entities, we have to ensure that we have some new supplies. We did have our regular supplies to make our operations flow smoothly. But since COVID, there are some new things that we have to now focus on. Can anybody tell me what? Tell me one or two or maybe three. What are these new supplies that we now have to consider? One, you're wearing one, the mask. So at all of these entities, we have to ensure that we have a regular supply or a stock of face masks for our employees. True? Yes, because it can be that in removing the mask, maybe to sanitize or to eat, then that mask become contaminated. Yeah? So we have to see how we can help that employee so that he or she can continue with their regular duty. One other new supply is alcohol-based hand sanitizer. What is the recommended percentage of alcohol that should be in these hand sanitizers? The minimum percentage. 70, yes? All right. 70 is good, 60 is also good, right? Now, there are properties, there are entities that had to do some changes in terms of things that their visitors, their workers will be able to use. We have the soap dispensers, the hands-free garbage bins, the single-use paper napkins. So these are new things that COVID has now thrust on us. Yeah? It is important that we see how we can balance, how we can manage our space so that when we are interacting or when we are inviting persons within our space, then one, we know that we have covered all of our bases, and persons who are coming in, they too will be able to not cause any invasion, or they will now bring in anything that we do not want, things that we never invited. And that is why, even though we are encouraging us to ensure that our workspaces are well managed in terms of wearing the face mask, having our sanitization stations, our SPPs are still active. Even in our comfort space, we ensure that we have some protocols in place. Within the working space, we encourage us to sanitize areas that workers as well as visitors would frequently touch, like handrails, doorknobs. What do you do within your home? We do have frequently touched areas, such as the remotes. We are forced to use our devices even more than before. How regular do we sanitize these devices? What about the light switches? So yes, we have to manage our workspace, but we also have to manage our comfort space. We have to manage ourselves as well. And that is why, for today, the other presenter that we have will be focusing on vaccination. This is important, and I'm going to be leaving all of that information to Miss Mullings. But it is important for us to understand the protocols, be reminded of them, and how we need to see to the management of our space as well as that of our visitors. Any questions? Anything you want to share with us? All right, so I want to thank you for coming out, for joining us, for those of us who are online, and for those of us who are here. I really want to extend a hearty thank you for being with us for this yet another series in our COVID-19 tourism health and safety protocols. It is important for us to be reminded, even though we might have been practicing these protocols, but just to see where we are and where we are heading. We really want to also thank you for ensuring that you are maintaining the protocols, and for those of us who can inform others, we do encourage you to do so. Thank you very much.
Number one industry, and our dedicated workers are its greatest asset. Jamaica would not be the heartbeat of the world without you. As the industry rebounds from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, we truly need all hands on deck, yours included. Vaccination holds the hope for tourism's full recovery. In addition to COVID-19 protocols, it is the only comprehensive way to fight the pandemic and save lives. I am therefore urging every worker in the tourism and hospitality industry, in all the subsectors, including accommodation, attractions, entertainment, transportation, and craft, to do your part and get vaccinated. Do it for yourself, your family, your workplace, and your community. Do it for Jamaica, land we love. Stay safe, get vaccinated.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Blake. All right, so we are reminded of the tourism COVID-19 protocols, and we continue to stay safe. We continue to make it a safe environment for us, our families, or visitors. And with that, we want to move on now to just looking at the benefits of the vaccination. And as I said earlier, we have partnered with the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And this morning, our presenter is Mrs. Julianne Mullins, and she is a Parish Health Promotion and Education Officer for the Ministry of Health. She's responsible for the St. James region, and she'll be sharing with us some tips on the vaccination and the benefits as we remain safe. Please welcome Mrs. Mullins.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. All right, I'm going to do that again. I don't do boring. Good morning, everyone. This is indeed the day that the Lord has made, and I have chosen to rejoice and be glad in it. There is so much happening here in Jamaica, but we are not in Ukraine. Word? Yeah. All right, so as you heard, my name is Julianne Mullins. I'm the Parish Health Promotion and Education Officer with the Ministry of Health. And I have the awesome responsibility of promoting health and wellness, as well as educate persons. You know, I mean, it does not mean that I'm the most educated. It just means that I have to do a lot harder work to get the information because you are expecting that and you are depending on me to provide you with the information. I came out here a couple of weeks ago, was it? And we were supposed to be addressing a team of persons from, from the tourism industry. And some showed up and some did not. I was a bit disappointed. Reason being is that you really play a pivotal role in this whole nation building because, tourism is really the backbone of Jamaica. And so it's very important that that aspect is well taken care of. May I take this out? Thanks. I can't seem to keep steady a little bit. All right, so this morning, what I will be doing is I'm just going to be going through vaccine. I know that there are a lot of questions about vaccination, a lot of doubts, a lot of fears, a lot of resistance. And what I want to do this morning is just to enlighten you. A lot of the information will be familiar, but I will be passing on some information to you, and I hope that I'll be able to answer your questions, all right, as best as possible. Am I ready? Okay, there we go. All right. Am I doing it right? Is it up arrow? Okay, thank you. It's not on. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, there we go. All right, so don't allow the long list to fool you. It's not going to be that long, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get through quickly. Now, what is vaccine? What is vaccine? Are we new to vaccine in Jamaica? No, we are not. Now, a vaccine is a type of medicine that actually stimulates a person's immune system to produce immunity to a specific disease, protecting that person from the disease. Now, before you even know yourself, before we even know ourselves, we have been vaccinated. First time, by the time you reach 3 months, you would, the old-fashioned way of doing it is that you would not be taken out as a baby. You would not be taken out of the house before 3 months. And at that time, 3 months was the time when you would have gotten your first BCG shot. Fast forward into today, within 1 day of birth, In the hospital, you're given your BCG. And that's the first vaccination that you're given for protection. And then there is a schedule by which you are vaccinated as the years go by. Now, Jamaica is known to be highly covered in terms of vaccination. I think we're in the 90%, more covered than some of even the first world countries. Vaccination is what has kept a lot of us alive until today. I met a gentleman some time back during this whole COVID season, and the gentleman, the long and short of it is that when vaccination was being administered in school, you remember those days when the public health nurses would come into school and vaccinate you in school, he was one of those who ran and hid himself. All right, so he said that he was in grade 4 at the time, and when the nurses came, he ran with some friends and he hid in the bushes. By the time he graduated from that school, the primary school, so I was in grade 4, it was an all-age school, so it would have gone out to grade 9. By the time he left the school, he contracted polio. The nurses were actually there to administer polio vaccine, and he ran, he hid, but before his time in school ended, he contracted polio, and today he's unable to walk. He's paralyzed from the waist down. And what he said to me, anytime vaccine is being administered, he wants them. It doesn't matter what type of vaccine he wanted. He wants the whole lot. Because now he's able only to move around by virtue of wheelchair or other assistance. And he drives, but, it is hand managed. And so he was able to give that testimony. And I look at it, and I said that, a lot of persons are going to regret not being vaccinated by the COVID for various reasons, right? Loved ones are dying, and so we need to really pay attention to that and understand what the vaccine is all about. So it is really, it's a type of medicine to really stimulate your immune system. It's not going to create a new immune system for you. It's going to work with what you have. So if the immune system is not up and up, then the vaccine really maybe not going to have enough to work with, all right? I am having a challenge with this thing. Okay. Could you control it from there for me, please? Next slide. We're there yet? Okay. Sorry. Which one is it? Is it? Okay. All right. Okay. So I will continue just to say that your immune system is that wall around you. It's your protection. It's your perimeter fencing. And whenever your immune system is affected, then it means that you have been left vulnerable. Okay. Could you go back a bit for me, please? All right, next slide now. Thank you. Wrong direction. Okay. All right, so the question of how does a vaccine work? All right, the vaccine work within your body's natural defense to protect you. So as I mentioned before, it is not something to create a new immune system. It is something to work with what it is that you have already. There's a video that is going to be played right now that is going to give you a basic idea of what we're talking about.
You should know. Ready? Number 1, getting the immune system in shape. A vaccine is basically a training session for the immune system. Vaccines teach the immune system to look for the key features of a virus. So, when a virus does show up, it's ready to fight it off. Number 2, vaccine, meet virus. The vaccine gives your body a plan to recognize the virus. Then your immune system starts preparing by making antibodies, or fighter cells, that stay in your blood as protection in case the virus tries to invade. What this means is you get immunity against the disease without having to get sick first. Number 3, immunity. When enough people's bodies know how to fight off a virus, it has nowhere to go. That slows the spread. When people get a vaccine, we're able to stop the spread quicker and get a little closer to ending this pandemic. That's basically how vaccines work. And that is 60 seconds.
All right, so when you are vaccinated, the vaccine will do 2 basic stuff for you. All right, it will first of all recognize the invading germs or bacteria. All right, so the vaccine, once you're vaccinated and that medicine is in your system, it helps you to recognize the intruder, which would be COVID-19 in this case. And then secondly, what it does is actually produces antibodies that fight and destroy the germ before you become sick. All right, so it highlights, it looks out, and it finds those invading germs, and then it produces an antibody to be able to destroy it. Now, for every illness that you have, you do produce antibodies. All right? So if you catch the common cold, for example, and you know that there are many different strains of cold, you contract the common cold, you build a resistance to that once you have recovered, and that would be you producing antibodies. Once that is done, if you are exposed to that same strain of flu again or cold again, then you find that you manage better, your body fight in a better sense because it recognizes the germ and it is able to resist it. Now, the question of whether vaccines are safe is one that is on the lips of everyone. All right? I would like to say to you and reinforce and to affirm you that yes, vaccines are actually safe. All right? They are licensed and they have gone through some really rigorous testing before it is placed on the market and before it is even approved. And it is not only tested once, all right? Even as it is being administered, they continue to test the vaccine to ensure that the quality, the efficacy of the vaccine remains. Now, why should you take vaccine or why should you get vaccinated? Currently, we have available about 20 different diseases that we have vaccinations available for, such as diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, influenza, and measles. And when we talk about influenza, there are so many different strains of the flu. So many different strains of the flu. COVID-19 is one. All right? It's just that it is a new strain that we are not, I guess we are becoming familiar with at this time, but it is one of the flu strains. Together, these vaccines, they really save lives of millions of persons every year. And without vaccine, many more persons would have become seriously ill or even die. So, should you get vaccinated? Absolutely, yes. Now, vaccine is important because it is a vital tool in the effort to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Now, how does the vaccine prevent the COVID-19, reduce or stop the spread of COVID-19 virus? As you would have heard, the vaccine is not designed to prevent you from getting COVID-19, right? And I think that is one of the challenges that persons are having. The vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID-19. What it actually does, it reduces the impact of COVID. So you find that some persons get so ill as a result of getting the COVID-19 virus. If they're asthmatic or if they have underlying conditions, they get so ill as a result. With the vaccine, the impact is not so great. Persons will not get as seriously ill, and the rate of death definitely will decrease. And we have to bear in mind that COVID-19 is not the only thing that causes death nowadays. All right? So we have to bear that in mind and remember that. Now, we have, initially when COVID-19 vaccine came into Jamaica, we started administering the vaccine to certain categories of persons. Older persons and essential workers. We had the vaccine being administered to persons 60 and over, healthcare workers, persons from the Jamaica Defense Force, persons from the Fire Brigade, passport and immigration, and the persons within the school. And this was because these persons are what we consider to be frontline workers. They are up and out on the front, right? I guess you can say that you are also frontline workers, but with COVID-19, the services, especially in the tourist industry, had to be, some entities had to be closed down, and the activities within those entities had to be reduced so that we do not encourage a spread. Vaccine that we have, the COVID-19 vaccines, we have 4 COVID-19 vaccines at this time, and they're all administered in the upper arm, whether the left or the right. We started with the AstraZeneca, and the AstraZeneca vaccine is a 2-dose vaccine. It is administered 8 to 12 weeks apart, all right? And then we have the Pfizer vaccine that came on the scene after that. Pfizer vaccine also is a 2-dose vaccine, and that one is administered 3 weeks apart. We ended up with the Johnson & Johnson, which was, it seemed as though it was the Valena of ice creams. You know when you have ice cream and everybody wants rum and raisin or vanilla, the favorites. Now the Johnson & Johnson, it was the rum and raisin of vaccine, because everybody wanted Johnson & Johnson. That was like before it came. Most persons were waiting. I just want one dose and go. However, when the vaccine actually came here, we realized that the uptake was not so great as we were anticipating. The Johnson & Johnson is a 1 dose, so once you get that dose, you are considered fully vaccinated. And then in more recent time, I think it was in November, that we got the Sinopharm that came from China. That too is a 2-dose vaccine, and it's administered 3 to 4 weeks apart. Now, at this stage in the pandemic, we have boosters, right? And the boosters, it serves to really help your system along. So you would have gotten the vaccine at first, and because we continue to learn about COVID-19 and how it behaves, we have to ensure that we continue to inspect and re-examine. And so you find that some of the protocols will change as we go on. So the booster sort of helped the original doses to push it a little further to give it a better coverage. Boosters are available for the AstraZeneca, the Pfizer, as well as the Johnson & Johnson. And for the AstraZeneca, the booster is administered 6 months after the last dose. All right. Whilst for Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, it's administered 2 months after the last dose. Now, why will the AstraZeneca or vaccine be used? Vaccines on a whole. We want to, as we pointed out, we want to reduce the impact, reduce the risk of getting the vaccine. But what you find is that the benefit far outweighs the risk. The benefit far outweighs the risk. So what the coverage that we'll get from the COVID-19 vaccine, when it is compared to the risks that would be involved, it's much more. The benefits are much more. And so it is recommended that persons will get the vaccine so that you can get a fighting chance. All right? So that you can get a fighting chance. Now, it offers up to between 62 and 82% in coverage. So each vaccine offers a different percentage in coverage. The one that offered greatest coverage was the Pfizer. That was up to about 95%. The AstraZeneca was about 85%. It was about 90%, and the Johnson & Johnson offered about 86%. And so that pertains still. All right, could you help me out here? My laptop just went dead. Thank you. It's working now. Right. Okay. All right, so you see where it is administered there in the upper muscle of the arm. Some persons went as far as to request that if they can get it in a pill form or get it, in drops, but we are not there just yet. All right, so it is important that you get the full protection. The thing about it is that if you get half of the dose, then you are just 50% protected. All right, so if you are taking the vaccine, you have to see it through to the entire dose. Some persons are concerned, and I know that there were a lot of concerns during that time when we were out of vaccine for a while. All right, but it has proven itself that it was not detrimental. But it's important that you eventually get your 2 doses. Now, some of the signs and some of the side effects that come with the vaccines, all 4 vaccines, are inclusive of headache. You may have a little temperature. You may also feel really lethargic or sleepy. All right? Those were the 3 main side effects that we experience, a person's experience. Now, there are other stories. About what the vaccine caused persons. Some persons, they give the vaccine credit for them to be able to reproduce and things like that. Especially for the men, they think that it really boosts their sex drive. And so we got a lot of requests for extra doses for that very purpose. I don't know. Maybe the gentleman can speak to that. All right. But we are going to go through some myths and facts that will help to alleviate some of the questions that you may have. All right. Natural immunity is something that a lot of persons question. And natural immunity would be if I have gotten COVID-19, and as I told you, I would have produced antibodies. The question is, can those antibodies protect me against COVID going forward? Why do I need to get the vaccine if I have had COVID-19 before? Now, the answer to that is that the vaccine would allow you to get the antibodies without you feeling the discomfort of COVID-19, the illnesses, the cough, the loss of taste and smell, the shorter breathing and things like that. So you get the benefit without, the damaging effects. With COVID-19 also, there was not a surety as to how long the natural immunity would last, if it was adequate. So it was encouraged that once even if you have had a COVID-19, that you should still go ahead and get the vaccine. Now, you cannot get the vaccine immediately after you have COVID-19. All right, it's going to be dependent on how you are feeling. If you're still having residual symptoms like cough and cold and things like that, then we suggest that you wait until you're feeling well enough to get the vaccine. All right, so on the point now of whether or not COVID vaccine prevent you from getting the COVID virus, as I mentioned before, it does not prevent you from getting COVID-19 virus. So what we have asked is that you continue to do the protocols, continue to wear the mask, continue to hand sanitize, and continue to take your physical distance. All right, until such time. The more persons are vaccinated, is the less chance of the virus mutating. So you have heard about the various strains that were developed after. You heard about the Delta and the Omicron now, which is very contagious. So you find that whenever we don't have a lot of persons being vaccinated within a population, mutation is more possible and quicker. The virus mutates. But if more persons are vaccinated, then it means that the transmitting the virus to from one person to another, the impact would be much less. And so you find that eventually we won't have so many persons being ill, and eventually the virus would sort of weaken and taper off for the time being. But don't be mistaken. Just as how we have like dengue, and dengue came, and every couple of years you hear about a dengue outbreak. That is what it may be with COVID-19. Right? Remember, it is a flu, It's a flu-like virus. It is from the family of flus. And so it is something that may come back again and again. But we have to understand it and know how to handle the virus. We continue to help to encourage persons to remain healthy. Because if you're not healthy, your chances, your fight becomes more risky. Right? So you have to continue eating well, continue to take your medication if you're on medication for whatever reason, and ensure that you exercise. A lot of persons would have gained weight throughout the whole COVID pandemic because your habit has changed. You're not up and out and around as you used to be. And so you find that a lot of persons have gained weight, and in gaining weight, you find that you sometimes become more prone to the chronic illnesses, chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. And if you remember, the persons who are most at risk are the persons who have these chronic diseases. So if you're diabetic, if you're hypertensive, if you have cancer or any other underlying condition, your immune system has already been compromised, and so it makes it a little harder for you to deal with the fight against the COVID-19 virus. All right? So please remember, the vaccine, yes, is safe and effective, and it will save life. It will allow us to go back to some level of normalcy, and it will help persons to return to normal quickly. All right? That is one part of our presentation. I'm just going to ask you just to switch to the other one. The other presentation that we'll be doing is it's questions. I think it's mostly myth versus facts. So there are just questions that we know that people are asking. So instead of, allowing persons to ask the same question over and over, we have put together a list of commonly asked questions. And so after we're through with this, you may ask any question that were not covered. All right, so the first myth is that the COVID-19 vaccine is not safe because it was developed too rapidly. Now, in my response to that, I normally say to persons, back in the days, way back in the days, when someone needs a message to go, for example, downtown, you're here and you need somebody downtown to get a message from you. Way back in the days, somebody would actually have to run from here, maybe to a distance, give the message to somebody, and the person run and take it to you downtown. All right? I'm sure that is an activity that none of us would have enjoyed at this time. We have the phone. And if we want to talk to somebody on the other side of this wall, we can WhatsApp and we can just pick up our phone and call. And so the person is hearing it from us. Information travels much quicker, and the information is more accurate because it's you speaking it directly to the person. The person doesn't have to hear it from somebody else. Now, what I must say is that we have to understand that this improvement in technology, it is also beneficial to healthcare, right? Diseases and illnesses and conditions that persons would die from in the past, it's much reduced now. It's very much reduced now because of the improvement in technology. We have, for example, the ultrasound that you can actually see a baby moving inside of a woman before the baby comes out. And it has improved to the extent where you can actually see the features of the baby. First time, the mother just have to wait to see what type of baby she's having. So things have improved. Now, taking it home to vaccine. What if it still took 10, 20, 30 years to develop a vaccine? A lot of persons would have died. A lot of persons would have died. So the technology that we have, the benefit of the technology that we have, it has also been used in the development of vaccine. And so you'll find that things take quicker time to come over. The COVID-19 vaccine, the baseline for the COVID-19 vaccine, as I'd put it, it's similar to the flu. It's similar to the SARS. SARS is one of those flu-like viruses that we had some years back, I think in 2005. And it really wreaked havoc. We did not have so much of a big problem with it here in Jamaica as we are having with COVID-19. But it was a deadly virus. It still is a deadly virus because it's still around. And so what you find is that they had started to develop a vaccine from that SARS-CoV-2 virus. And when the COVID-19 virus came in, there were some similarity with how it behaves and so on. All right? So it is not like the vaccine was developed, basically developed in a year. Some aspect of researches and so on were already being done. And so technology has aided the researchers to be able to develop a vaccine that is able to help. And I know that the vaccine actually helps, because persons who are dying from COVID-19 are mostly persons who are not yet vaccinated. Persons who have been vaccinated, some persons who have been vaccinated, you find that their experience with COVID-19, having been infected after being vaccinated, is much, much less. The question of whether or not COVID-19 will alter our DNA. I would jokingly say to persons, I have taken the vaccine since day one. March 10th, 2020, when it first came into Jamaica, I got my vaccination. And I still have not grown a tail or anything. I haven't seen anything differently. All right, so it does not really interact with your DNA. It doesn't cause any alteration of the development of the human. Based on what we know. So that's nothing to really be worried about. Thousands of persons have actually taken the vaccine, and I guess maybe you can do your own research to see what are the changes that have taken place. Now, in terms of a tracking device, this is something that I think we all maybe can laugh about at a time, because I keep on saying to persons, the phone that we use, that we carry, that is a bigger tracking device than a tracking device in a vaccine. The needles that are used are pretty small, and it is not practical to have a tracking device in the vaccine to be pushed through a needle to be administered, right? If I pass by the convention center, my phone will send me a message, how was your visit, even if I didn't come by. Right? I can pick up my phone and I can know if somebody drives out my car or anything. Your shopping habits are determined based on your use of your phone. So if you're worried about a tracking device, this is what you need to be worried about. All right? Because it really opens up your life to the world. But for tracking device being in a vaccine, not something to be worried about. That question of infertility in women. I have had cases where the lady took her vaccine, or AstraZeneca, and she used to come back in 8 weeks. And by the time she came back, she said to me, Mrs. Mullins, I am pregnant. I just found out that I'm pregnant. And do you think I should take the vaccine still, the second dose? Right? So persons still get pregnant. Persons still get pregnant from after having taken the vaccine. When a woman is pregnant and the stages are early, we suggest that they wait a little longer to take the vaccine. All right, if it's a second dose or it's a first dose. If you're pregnant and it's early times yet, just wait on a couple of weeks or so to take the vaccine before, anything. Okay, this another question is that I have already been diagnosed with COVID-19, so do I need to get vaccinated? And I think I would have answered that within the presentation, so I'm just going to skip over this one. All right, so another myth is you can get COVID-19 from the vaccine. Once I receive the vaccine, I will be tested positive. That is only possible if it was like the live virus that was vaccinated in you. All right, but that's not the case. So when it is that you take the vaccine, yes, you're going to have those mild side effects, as some of them may feel as though you're having COVID, because, some of the side effects are similar to COVID, the headache, the fever, and things like that. But if a test is done, and you can only confirm COVID by doing a test, if a test is done, you will not be tested positive as a result of the vaccine. However, it could be that you would have already been infected with the virus before taking the vaccine. All right, because if persons are asymptomatic and they present to the health department and said, I need a vaccine, when we go through the routine questions, we would do their temperature and we'll go through the routine questions like, are you having a cough? Are you having a fever? Or, are you feeling ill in any way? Once we go through those questions and the results are indicating that you are okay, then you're going to be vaccinated. All right. So if it is that you already contract the virus and you get the vaccine on top of that, then you may find that you may feel a little worse than normal. All right. But there's no other way to know that you're positive or negative from the virus unless a test is done. Some persons have opted to really do a test and then take the vaccine after it returns negatively. Allergic reactions. Some allergies are everywhere. Persons are allergic to various things. I remember my sister, she has been allergic to eggs ever since she was a baby coming up. She's a nurse and she needed to be vaccinated. But before she got vaccinated, she had to do a particular test to ensure that they determine what type of allergies she's having. So she's allergic to shellfish and she's allergic to eggs. So the test needed to prove that what she's allergic to is not present within the contents of the vaccine. That she was able to take her vaccine because it did not have a negative impact on her. But if you have a severe allergies, we ask that you contact your doctor, talk to your doctor, and get their advice before you take the vaccine. And we spoke about natural immunity already, what that means when you actually got the virus already. That is considered natural immunity, but we recommend that you still get yourself vaccinated. That is also a question that we covered. The need to wear a mask. Do we need to wear a mask and to hand sanitize once we have been vaccinated? And the answer is yes. Still need to wear a mask so that we can protect others and protect ourselves. So basically, the vaccines are safe and they are effective. They will save lives and allow persons to return to normalcy, and they will allow our country itself to be able to open its doors once more and get back to that level where we were in 2019. This marks the end of my presentation. I hope that you did gain some information from it, and I will take any questions that you have at this time.
Good morning. I have a question for you. And I'll preface the question with just a comment. When the Johnson & Johnson was first introduced to us here in Jamaica, I believe we had said it was a 6-month period that would be required for the booster. Subsequent to that, we heard 2 months. So my question is, if someone took the Johnson & Johnson and 6 months have already passed and you have not had your booster, what do you recommend?
Still take the booster at that time.
Okay.
So you take the booster because the virus is already in your system. Mm-hmm. It's already doing its work. It's already providing the coverage. So any additional assistance is given to it. Is important.
So it's not too late.
It's not too late.
Though
it's
you
not
do
too late.
recommend.
Because remember, you have persons who have taken the vaccine from 2020, like myself, right? From the initial. And remember that the boosters just recently came in last year. So they would have gone a full year without getting a booster.
Yes.
All right. So it doesn't create any additional complication in any way.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I am proud to say that the numbers in terms of cases positive, they are on the decline. Still too high, but they are on the decline. As it pertains to the vaccine, we realize that the uptake on vaccine is reducing. But of the persons that are taking the vaccine at this time, they are mostly first-time doses, which is a good indication. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is there a recommended time period for you to take the booster if you've contracted COVID?
The guideline remains the same. As I pointed out, if you have had COVID, you have to wait until a certain time before taking the vaccine. So you have to wait until you would have completed your quarantine period. You have to wait until you are free from any residual effect of the COVID-19 virus, meaning any cough or any cold or anything that is associated to the virus. You have to wait until you have regained your strength and regain your good standing. The same thing for the booster, right? Once it is within the time that you should have taken it, for example, the AstraZeneca, if it is supposed to be 6 months after you have taken the last dose, and if you got the virus, then you have to wait until you have properly recovered and feeling well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it highly recommended that we take the booster, or is it a nice or good to have?
It is recommended. It is recommended that you take the booster. At this stage, we need all the help we can get in terms of recovering, in terms of bouncing back. And we are bouncing back at a very crucial time. The world is not the same. So for me, personally, I can't afford to be down. I can't afford to be sick. I can't afford to lose a day curled up in bed for something that I could have avoided or reduced the effect of. So yes, it's recommended. It's in some cases, it's highly recommended, especially for persons who are having underlying conditions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Another common question I'll hear persons asking is, why aren't they tested before taking the vaccine?
Why are they not tested before taking the vaccine? You can imagine the resources that we lose. As I mentioned before, is that if we were to test everyone, I know that it would put a strain on the resources, but if it is that you are not symptomatic, it means that really you're not ill, right? If you're not symptomatic, it means that you are not ill. You have the virus within you, but you're not ill. So the question of being tested before, I'm not sure where we'd go with that. But I know that in terms of the financial part of it, it would really put a strain and it would really increase the amount of time that before which people get to be vaccinated. Because right now, when persons have done their COVID-19 tests, it takes a while to get back the result. If you want back the result quickly, you have to go privately. But from a public perspective, it takes a while. And that's because the National Public Health Lab is the lab that reads all of these samples, and it is really overrun. So we have to consider all of those things. It's really absolutely necessary to be tested, right? So once you pass the preliminary question tests, then we don't find it necessary to be tested. If you want to go and test before you do it, then that's fine. But from a ministry perspective, we don't find it absolutely necessary.
Thank you. Another question.
Yes.
Persons who have the virus, but they're asymptomatic, is it safe for them to say that they're healthy? Is it that their immune system is working while they're not experiencing any signs or symptoms?
It is an indication that their immune system is robust, is really working. The wear and tear on the body is the most serious thing. So you get the virus and you're not showing any side effects. You're not having any side effects, but you can pass it on nonetheless. But what it does is that the impact on your body, that is crucial. Not having to go through that, it really spares you, because sometimes there are things that are wrong with our systems and we don't know. And when we get ill, it tends to trigger. And those weak areas are the ones that tend to be highlighted and be more severely affected. So if you have had COVID and you have not had any symptoms or you have not been ill from it, give God thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms.
If
Beckman.
you're fully vaccinated with AstraZeneca, can you be boosted with another type of vaccination?
Yes, yes, it can. Because the AstraZeneca booster actually just recently came, like just about maybe earlier this month. So prior to that, we were using the Pfizer booster with the AstraZeneca. So you're vaccinated with AstraZeneca. For the booster, you would have gotten Pfizer. But now we have the AstraZeneca booster also.
Oh, so you can be vaccinated?
Yes, you can be
boosted
vaccinated.
with AstraZeneca
Yes,
as well?
yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure though if you have a choice at this time. When we did not have the AstraZeneca booster, you would automatically get the Pfizer booster. But now that we have the AstraZeneca, I think it's something I need to check out to see if you have a choice. Because persons like to mix their flavors, you know.
Right, because that's what I was wondering, if it would be recommended
Right.
to use another or just go straight.
Right. So I'm not absolutely sure if you have a choice where that is concerned. I know it can be done, but I don't know if you have a choice. I can check that out and let you know, though.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Yes, my question to you is for a person who took the Pfizer, the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine, and they got ill for a while, so like 9-10 weeks has elapsed. Is it okay for them to take it still?
Once they're okay, once they're feeling well, yes, they can go on to take it. So we recommend a particular time period, but if for whatever reason you have surpassed that, don't be afraid, just go in and get your vaccine nonetheless.
Thanks much.
You're most welcome. Do I have any more questions?
I certainly don't mean to hog the show, but I have one more question. I've heard persons talk about long COVID, persons who have had the virus and weeks and months after, they still have symptoms. Today they're feeling up, tomorrow they're in the dungeon. And it's just prolonged. Yes. Tell me a little bit about that. What is that all about, and what do you recommend for persons who have that condition to do?
The long COVID situation is one that, you know, I wonder about it myself. I have seen persons, because the first isolation site in Montego Bay, I managed it for about three months. And so I had persons there for the duration of the 3 months. They were there. It's not even only about them feeling well today and not feeling well the other day. It's about the presence of the virus in their system. So they would have been tested frequently, like every week.
Yes.
And they're just always positive.
And
Normally that's a good thing, but in this case it wasn't.
And these are not just persons who have underlying conditions necessarily, even though many of them do have, you know, whether it's asthma or diabetes or some of those other conditions that make them more vulnerable?
No, it's not unique to persons with underlying conditions. You know, those persons are more at risk, yeah? Mm-hmm. But I guess it's just a matter of how your system functions. Different strokes for different folks. You will have COVID and you will react a particular way. I will get COVID and it's like I'm on. The same thing with the vaccine. A person gets a vaccine and they had no side effects. And then another person gets the vaccine and they get even side effects that we didn't even know about. All right? So it has to do with the individual, how your system is constructed, how your system is made up, how vulnerable, how weak it is, how strong it is. All right? For the long COVID, we recommend that persons really monitor themselves, understand what is happening to themselves, and really do not take a risk. So if you find that after 10 to 14 days, you are still feeling severely ill, then you are going to need to go to a doctor and you have to continue taking the necessary protocol. It's a situation you just have to wait until the virus does its time, and then you're better. But you have to remember the persons who are around you, understand that you do not want to transmit.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. I think we have a couple of goodies from TPDCo, and I want to just ask those persons who are here 2 questions, and if we can get a correct answer, then we will be happy to reward that person. And I'm just pulling something from what you said earlier on. You said there were 4 different types of vaccinations available here in Jamaica, and I know perhaps we all know them, but I'd like one person to just come and tell me any 2 of the 4 that you mentioned. Right. And if they can do that, then...
All right, and I would like to tack something on. Any 2 and how long between?
That makes it so much more difficult, eh? Do we have anybody who can give it a shot?
Right here. Okay.
Oh, okay. Go right ahead.
Good morning. The Pfizer vaccine and AstraZeneca and 6 months.
All right, so what's the duration? How long after taking the first dose you take the second?
6 months. Between 8 to 12 weeks, I think.
For which one?
For the AstraZeneca.
Ah, he got it. He got it. Well done, well done.
Okay, we just wanted to be sure that those persons who are in the room are listening and they are taking something positive away from this interaction. Yes. I think we have another question, Ms. Mollison. Earlier on when Maxine presented, she mentioned the different, let me see, what do we call them? The key health and safety elements of the Jamaican tourism sector. There are 8 of them. I just need somebody to come and tell me 2. 8 key health and safety elements of the Jamaican tourism sector. And I think it's something that you don't even have to think too hard about, because it's stuff that we've been doing for the last 2 years, and it has become second nature in many instances. Anybody who wants to try that? No? You're going to try? Okay, go ahead.
The wearing of the mask or your protective gears, and also sanitization stations.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, I believe you can clap her, because she is correct. So sanitization stations, face masks or personal protective equipment, physical distancing, which we have become accustomed to, clear, frequent, and consistent messaging, technology enablement. So for example, where you have menus, rather than have menus, you may want to have a barcode, and persons can scan a menu as opposed to, the touchy thing. Real-time monitoring and reporting, and I believe rapid and clear response and training, which is what we're about today, just making sure that people are sensitized, understand what they should do, and not just do yesterday or 2 years ago, but do going forward, because we're not out of the woods, not yet, at any rate. All right, so thank you very much, and congratulations to our winners.
Thank you so much for those, and I am really glad that persons have been listening. Remember, though, that this fight is not just Mr. Prime Minister Holness's fight. It's not only Dr. Christopher Tufton's fight. It's our fight. It's our fight, and we all play a very pivotal role in us getting back our lifestyle, as it were. So I will encourage you that at least, if you're still not at this point ready to take the vaccine, at least do your best and get all the protocols up and up. Ensure that you wear your mask, ensure that you hand sanitize, ensure that you keep your environment clean so that we can all get back our lives. Thank you so much.
Without a doubt, tourism is Jamaica's #1 industry, and our dedicated workers are its greatest asset. Jamaica would not be the heartbeat of the world without you. As the industry rebounds from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, we truly need all hands on deck, yours included. Vaccination holds the hope for tourism's full recovery. In addition to COVID-19 protocols, It is the only comprehensive way to fight the pandemic and save lives. I am therefore urging every worker in the tourism and hospitality industry, in all the subsectors, including accommodation, attractions, entertainment, transportation, and craft, to do your part and get vaccinated. Do it for yourself, your family, your workplace, and your community. Do it for Jamaica, land we love. Stay safe, get vaccinated.
Just before we get back to Ms. Mollison, I believe we have a question that came in online, and I'd like to just ask Ms. Williams to take this question. And I know that we're being monitored as well. Oshin, if you have any questions that came in online, we would appreciate you just sending them to me via WhatsApp, and I will certainly pose those questions for Ms. Williams as well. And this question says, should a person who got a 1 dose and got sick before taking their 2nd dose take a COVID test before getting their 2nd? And should they be tested for antibodies prior to ensure they have the right antibodies level before getting their 2nd dose? Did you get that?
Yeah, I get that.
Okay.
All right, so the first part of the question, a person who has taken first dose and they got infected.
Got sick before taking the 2nd dose.
Their 2nd dose.
Right.
Should they be tested before taking the 2nd dose?
The 2nd dose, yes.
Not necessarily. What we have been operating under, the information that we have been operating with, is that at 10 to 14 days, the viral load in your system is not enough for transmission, for you to transmit virus to other persons, right? So it goes right back to what I was saying. Once the person is well, once they have completed their quarantine period and they are well enough, they are not having any residual effect, then they can go on and take their 2nd dose. If they want to be tested, that is not something that we are asking persons to do, but they will have to do it maybe at their own cost if they so desire. All right? Okay. And then the second part of the question.
The second part says, should they be tested for antibodies prior to ensure they have the right antibodies level before getting their 2nd dose?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. All that will have to be at their own expense, if that, their choice. It's not something that we ask persons to do, and it's not even recommended, really. But if they so desire, they can.
Okay. Another question here coming in. I'm not sure you can answer this one, but it says, do you have any idea why Bill Gates says there is another virus coming?
There are many more viruses coming. I mean, they may not even be COVID related, but I mean, I don't think it takes a scientist to realize, there are a lot of other viruses coming, and there are mutations, constantly there are constant mutations. Some of them are not worth writing about, they're not that impactful, but the ones that are serious, like the Delta and the Omicron, they will be mentioned, and the protocols will be adjusted as such if necessary.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mullins. I am sure that we came here today and we would have learned something new. No matter how much we say we know about the COVID protocols or the vaccination and the process, I'm sure we would have learned something new today, and we are relying on you to share that information with others. Share it in your community, share it with your co-workers. At this point, I would like to go towards the vote of thanks, and this afternoon, the person who is making the vote of thanks is Shantae Miller, and she's a Human Resources Officer at the Holiday Inn Sunspree. Let's welcome Shante.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. A good afternoon to you all. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this event. To all who presented and to all who aided in the successful delivery of this seminar, I would like to give thanks to Ms. Maxine Blake, the training officer at TPDCo, and Mrs. Julianne Mullins, for their departure today in terms of the information that was departed to us. We can safely say that the information was well received. Am I right? I'm sorry, I did not get that. Am I right that the information was well received? And for all the questions we had, they were answered. And to JIS and PBCJ for aiding in the process of the delivery so that the viewers at home could have gotten a taste of what we were experiencing here today. I want to say once again, thank you for everyone who came out, and to you that are sitting in front of me, who came out to ensure that this was a success. I thank you very much.
The 45th staging of the Dissemination Relays is on this Saturday, February 26th at the National Stadium. And you can catch all the action live here on PBC Jamaica starting at 1 p.m. Sponsors Puma, Digicel, Powerade, Water, Nakar, Pierre Benjamin, and PBC Jamaica. That's the Gibson McCook Relays on this station, PBC Jamaica, live from the National Stadium this Saturday starting at 1 p.m.
Come ring the alarm. The dust has finally settled. The day of reckoning has arrived. Only two sounds have been left standing. Rough Cut and Kush International. All scores will be settled this Saturday night, February 26th, 10 p.m. in the final showdown of Echoes of Sound Systems. It's a dancehall thing. Who will be the Reggae Month 2022 champion sound? Will it be Rough Cut?
Rough Cut! Power up to them,
Will
boy.
it be Kush International?
Kush International!
Catch all the action on PBCJ, JCDC Facebook page and across social media this Saturday, February 26, 10 p.m. Echoes of Sound Systems. Another exciting Reggae Month event.